Good afternoon, everybody. It's Kalini Kent here, and I've got in the studio with me the amazing Paul Millican from CAN Videography. Hello, Paul. It's lovely to have you here.
Hi there, Kalini. Happy to be here.
And as you all know, this is a series of conversations I do with incredible people, showcasing them and what it is they do for a living. And Paul is going to be sharing with us quite a lot of his knowledge and experience. A little tip thing here is that Paul actually did my show reel recently. Some of you may have actually seen it. Incredible videographer he is, and it was also what was most remarkable was the process by which he followed in order for us to actually achieve this. So I just wanted to share that with you. So thank you, Paul, and thank you for joining us. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Kalini, albeit a little bit late.
I know. Well, we will actually explain to our viewers why we are a little bit late, because we were due to go on at 12:30, but I had to change it. Paul phoned me in desperation because he was stuck behind a tractor, which was going rather slow. So Paul, in fact, only managed to get to us at about 12:30. So we've just delayed it a little bit. So it's really good to have you all here. Can I just also mention to you that we do welcome any comments or any questions in the chat, and we will answer them. Also to explain to you that because we're using StreamYard, the platform requires you to give them permission in order for your name to show. So if you'd like your name to show, please do so. Otherwise, your name, if you've already connected with me, we will see your name. But please do say hello, say hi. Hopefully, if it's your lunch break, you can grab a coffee with us, which I've got, and we can have a really good conversation. So to start us off, Paul, thank you. I'm glad you managed the time to get yourself a coffee, Paul.
Got to get the important things out of the way, Kalini.
So to start with, I just want to share with everybody and ask you a little bit more about. We met in a very unusual way, didn't we? Because it was actually through my relationship with Origi Bianchi and Nick Bianchi. And in fact, I saw this amazing video that you did. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because it's incredible. And I think people need to see that as well.
Yeah, so the video arose from my initiative that I set up called Mac in Action, which was my focus on local business owners and local establishments in the Macclesfield area who all had a story to tell, a lockdown-related story and sort of COVID-related story. I've always said that videos are a really great way to tell the story of your business, to build that relationship with customers and potential clients and business partners and things like that. And I felt that Mac in Action would be a really good opportunity during this time when a lot of businesses were locked down, a lot of their sales have been affected, a lot of their footfall through the door had been really seriously impacted by lockdown. It was a great time to celebrate the fertile ground of Macclesfield that has produced all of these local businesses. It would be a perfect time to really tell the stories of those businesses and what they've gone through, because everyone, I think, in the last 5, 6, 7 months has had their own unique story to tell, their own things, their own challenges that they've encountered, and I think Origi's as well, being a institution of Macclesfield. Like it's when you think of Macclesfield, you think of Origi Bianchi, sort of born and bred in Macclesfield, and over 100 years, 166 years, I think.
Yes.
167. Yeah. It's just been going for such a long time, and you would think such a huge business as that, maybe coronavirus wouldn't affect it the same way that it would a smaller family-owned business. But it's, at the end of the day, it's still a family-owned business. It's still a business operating through brick and mortar, and so it's obviously been affected. It obviously has a story to tell. So that was just one of many of the videos that I did for the Mac in Action initiative, and I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out. And thank you for the compliment as well.
No, it was excellent. And I think what was lovely about it, it was a very different style. You have quite a unique style, but we'll get on to that. I also think what's really important is you've also highlighted what's important for us all, because during COVID, some people have had to change their business, but they've also not been able to have the usual shop front or the ability to actually interact in a normal way and encourage their customers and to maintain that continuity and connection. So I think it's been really good that you've been able to highlight the fact that it's really important for us to still manage to keep customer facing and be able to sort of keep that continuity and connection going. And I think that I think we're all realizing that video is quite a powerful way. It certainly has shown it to me. And in fact, the parallel between us here is that you use video to showcase and to highlight people's skills. I've been doing these in conversations with, which are also an opportunity for people to actually showcase themselves. And we find out a behind the scenes sort of story about that person, their values, their vision and everything in a much, in a nice sort of gentle way, really, so I think it's really great. So I was just wanted to say how wonderful it is that we connected. And obviously you've now done my show reel. So before we go on to that though, do you want to share a little bit about your background and how you got to where you got to?
Yeah, so I suppose my multifaceted one-man band approach to videography, because that's what I do. I don't own a production company. I haven't got staff that work with me, that kind of thing. I just work completely for myself, trading under the name CAN Videography. That's all come about through, spending years of my life stuck in front of the computer, just doing animations and digital art and just this, that, the other. My parents were always happy to leave me to my own devices and just leave me to focus on doing creative stuff on the computer. I've always been into gadgets and technology. And when I went to university, I did quite a mixed media course. It was music production and new media, which new media these days is everything. It's everything that's on the internet. So it's memes, it's video production, it's web design, it's graphics, art and video. And I never really showed an interest in video prior to going away to university. But as soon as there was a film production course at university or a film production module, I picked the camera up and thought, quite like this. This is all right. And so it just went from there. And after I left uni, sort of the stars aligned gradually over time. And it got to a point where I was confident enough in my abilities as a videographer, as a motion graphics designer, as a sound designer, as an editor, just the whole thing that encompasses videography as a whole, that I decided to make a punt. And that punt has been continuing for the last 3.5 years. And couldn't be happier.
And I think actually the Mac in Action videos have really helped you, haven't they? Because they really showcase your abilities. And in fact, I know that you've mentioned a few phrases there which actually are even lost on me. I just want to also mention to everybody, by the way, that we are actually based in Macclesfield. For those of you who are watching from all over the country, maybe perhaps all over the world, just want to explain that we're in Macclesfield in Cheshire. And so we mentioned Origi Bianchi's and Mac in Action, and it's because we are based in beautiful Cheshire countryside, and it's an amazing town. So we're very proud of it. So, but that's just to explain to everybody. But so when you started out then, was there a lot of technical equipment you required, or, if somebody wanted to do this, what sort of equipment do they need?
That's an interesting question, because there are at least 2 clients that I currently am beginning to work with who are interested in the setting it up for myself aspect of video production. And my first ever client, actually, she's an art tutor based in Scholar Green. Her name's Mazart, and she does amazing portraits and how-tos. But she's actually, after working with her for the last 3 years, she's gradually sort of picked up bits and pieces of knowledge, and she's become self-sufficient, mostly when it comes to the videography work. So to set yourself up as an individual who's doing whatever their trade is, whatever their speciality is, be it painting, be it joinery, be it landscape gardening, be it cake making, anything, you need to invest. You need to know what to invest in terms of digital cameras, in terms of lenses, in terms of lighting, sound. There's a lot of jargon to work your way through. And for a lot of people, it's either a case of you're going to use this thing, because cameras on phones are great these days. They do the job, but there is only so far you can get with those cameras. So it's making that extra leap. And then with that extra leap comes a leap in cost. It comes a leap in time. It comes a leap in having to learn all the bits to do with production, but all the bits to learn with post-production as well. So editing the actual content once you've filmed it, because it's one thing to be able to stick a camera on a tripod and hit go. It's another thing entirely to create a complete video package. So in terms of getting started, it's no mean feat for someone who is, for the uninitiated. And I have a lot of sympathy for people who want to get into video production, particularly at a time like this when, as you mentioned, Kalini, we need to be customer facing. We need to find a way to get where the audience is, which is the internet mostly at the moment. I have a lot of sympathy for people who think, well, I can go into oh my goodness, what's this microphone? What's that camera? What does this lens mean? What are those? What's that all mean? Like all of this, there's so much jargon out there.
A lot of jargon. And I think that, I think perhaps even if it's explaining, in a moment, we'll explain the process that we went through. And I thought it was a really powerful way to actually explain. So some people might think, oh my gosh, let's do a video. Well, actually, we spent at least a good solid week in terms of hours, certainly for my preparation time to do my show reel, which was only actually 3 minutes, 23 seconds, though we have got a lot of content to add to another show reel. But I just want to also highlight this thing about, how it's really important that we all, you hear in business that you need to build up that sort of know, like, trust factor. People will only do business with you if they know you, they get to know you, they like you, they trust, and they can see, but they also need to see evidence of your work. I think that sometimes, you can put posts out on social media, you can put them as written posts, but they don't really they can't really hear your voice or see your face. And so I think that doing these lives, I love doing these lives, but I'm also quite confident to go live on Facebook or whatever. Some people aren't. So I think when I do these, that's again the parallel between what we both do, is that when I do these, I'm sort of almost holding the hand in the sense if somebody needs it to actually help them to give their message across. And similarly with you, what you're doing with your video, you're also giving that opportunity for somebody to highlight and showcase what they're about. And, you can't just go on a live and say, oh, my vision and my values are this, this, and this. It's so much easier when somebody's having a conversation with you and you've got that time to actually prepare. And I think the preparation and planning is is important, isn't it?
I think if we talk about this, because I like equating the digital digital format of doing things and the new normal way of doing things to the traditional way of things which are done. I think that our skill sets are interchangeable in that your skill set of, sitting down, doing this format and having a conversation with people is akin to networking or meeting up with a potential customer for a coffee and having that conversation, that one-to-one. But the advantage is then that the entire coffee shop is watching. Like any audience that's watching us at the moment are watching us having a conversation over a cup of coffee. When it comes to what I do, I think mine is much more the shop window. So I'm building an attractive, good-looking shop window, a window into that business or organization, so people can see this is the best of what I have. This is the image of the business or the brand that I want to project. So there's certainly that has its strengths, and finding out the people and the drive, the history, the story behind them is your strength when it comes to getting those natural conversations flowing.
Yeah. And I think also it's the other thing as well is that if you put a post on, certainly if on Twitter, it lasts a very short time. If you put a post on, social media, it's probably got a live, maybe 24 hours max immediately. It can sometimes last longer. Though I must admit, for example, when I shared my show reel, I'm still getting people commenting on it. It's
still happening, isn't it? Still going.
But that's the whole thing about it, is it's evergreen. It's not as if you're just putting that content out there for a short period of time. It's there all the time and it's constantly relevant until you update it the next time, and then you've got something that you can refer people to. So I just want to say, I think our message is, it's not just because Paul's sitting here. I do think that there is so much value in people thinking about, I talk to people and help them with their presentation skills and their confidence in going live and doing public speaking. You're getting them to do that, but in a much easier way, because we did so many takes, didn't we, to get the things exactly how I wanted it. We're both perfectionists, aren't we? But
again, that's the advantage of using. I'm going to sell myself here. It's just a big hard right turn, but no, I think that is the advantage of being in a partnership with a solo videographer, is that I'm not part of a bigger production chain. There's every single project for me is a passion project, and every single project is different. I've worked on, videos for landscape gardeners where we're doing like a promo for a lawnmower. That's what I was doing this morning, actually. And there's all sorts of other aspects of how a promo video can come together. When it comes to what your showreel was about, which was your confidence as a public speaker, as a broadcasting journalist, and everything that you do. You want to get that message just right. With a bigger production company, they're going to have a set format and approach to how they want to get the video done. It's going to be passed down the line for the producer to the editor, the scriptwriter, this, that, the other. And eventually it gets to a point where all of the essence and the passion and the personality of that video is lost somewhere, and it just becomes a blanket. It just becomes a blanket promo video. And by the way, you're paying 6 people, so here's your invoice at the end of it. With someone like me, as I said, every video is a passion project. So I work with you directly. It was a very collaborative process. I think it was a really refreshing way to work, in that you know exactly what you need to say, and we work together to sort of build that script almost as we're shooting it. And then the editing process as well after that, because we had so many takes and so many great phrases. I said to you, didn't I, that in the interest of making sure that we get this right, I'm going to hand all this raw footage over to you, and you tell me what you want to put together. And it's only through individuals working together and people at the book stops with me kind of working where you can really work on that collaborative stage with each other.
Yeah, and I think we need to then, let's explain how we went through it. But I just want to share, actually, hello, Nick. It's lovely to see you here. Thank you. That is so kind of you to say. 2 exceptional people. No, it takes one to know, my dear. You're an exceptional person too. And your Origi Bianchi business is just amazing. So thank you, Nick. That's very good to have you here.
By the way, the sofa that I'm on, cheers, Nick. I believe he's got the opposite version of it in his office. So. Oh,
has he? And I think a lot of my home is Origi Bianchi as well. But let's go back to how we started our process then, because I think if people understand, you said it was a collaborative process. I also think it was very organic, because and what was also great was that I think it is important that you have highlighted that because you are a one-man band. I also think I've also got the theatrical background where I've actually produced things. So I understood what you were after, but equally, we both understood it. But even for somebody who doesn't know exactly what they're after, what I thought was your process of going about it was incredible, because first of all, you sent me an email explaining to be about A and B footage, you know, and you can perhaps explain that. And then we went into the process of actually you turning up here. You spent 4 hours where we'd actually scheduled 2. You spent longer on it and so on. But do you want to explain about, first of all, when you're actually putting the content together, what A and B footage is?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Mac in Action videos and your show reel are perfect examples of A roll and B roll. A roll is the talking head. It's the main subject matter. So it's the person who's talking to the camera and giving all the great interview quips. Nick's interview is another case of a really, really well shot interview, well produced in terms of like his ability to give answers that were really good talking points, straight to the point and straight to the heart of the matter. So your A roll content is where all the good stuff lies. The B roll, so A and B, the B roll is the overlay shots, the kind of lifestyle shots, the time and place, the expo of the product itself, the expo of the person, what their brand is, examples of them doing what they're explaining during the A roll. So you'll see this a lot of, like, you know, slowed down footage of them. If it's somebody who works in a coffee shop, for example, it's going to be, you know, slow motion shots of them sort of tamping down coffee and pouring out lattes and things like that. And with yourself, Kalini, I think it was we headed over to Canal Side Radio, didn't we, and took some shots there. So that's another factor of B-roll. As in the A-roll, you're talking about your radio experience. So that's the difference there. Yeah. That
was really good, because what it was allowed me to do was think about, you know, so when we were doing the actual videoing here, in fact, we did it because of COVID. We did it in my home. So all of the footage, in fact, I'm having, we're actually in the same setup actually as my as in my lounge behind me. So what we did was I knew that the sort of content I wanted to therefore get across. So I did a lot of planning about what I had to say and what I needed to say. So again, this goes back to any presentation you do, guys. If whatever it is you're doing, whatever, my passion is the art of communication. It's about knowing what your purpose is, what is the message you're trying to convey, And it's also about you knowing, delivering it in so it's relevant to your particular audience. So, for example, what we did in our particular session is actually I had a lot of takes of different content. And we're now talking about actually modifying that show reel, which was made for a particular purpose. So we're now going to create 2 shorter ones for my confidence, resilience and mindset coaching work. And then the other one is for my public speaking work. So we're going to actually break it up. But that's the great thing. Once you've got this content, and like Paul's got he took all this video, we've now got the ability to actually change it, move it around, because it's there. And if you think ahead about all the things you want to do, you can make your time with Paul very, very valuable, because what you're effectively doing is you've got all that opportunity. You're all, and Paul, by the way, I must say, came with the most incredible equipment. I couldn't believe I felt I was in. It was like being, a special day where you're like, center of attention, because he brought all these cameras and all of this lighting equipment. I mean, God, you can tell them what you brought. It was incredible.
Yeah, we did go overboard with the lighting. I think it was great. So to be fair, though, I just bought them new. I think it was Prime Day on Amazon, and I went a bit mad. So I brought a new camera bag and bought a new lighting kit. So I'm using some of that today, actually. You'll notice some harsh lighting coming over from that direction. It's just a big LED lighting panel. Very energy efficient, doesn't really kick out a lot of heat, which is the problem I had with my previous lighting setup, which is these big just big non-energy saving bulbs. They're just these huge, whacking, great cylindrical things. They let out an absolute ton of light and a ton of heat as well. So not great on long shoots, not very energy efficient. So, but we had those on site. We had the LED lights as a hair light to separate you from the background, and then your microphone setup as well, and the big honking camera straight in front of you. So surrounded by technology in a completely natural environment, the conducive for very natural speaking. So good job to you. It's good job to anyone who gets into videography, because the first hurdle is being able to talk into the camera with confidence, and being able to sit outside yourself and get your points across without becoming too self-conscious, because that's the number one thing. You're having a conversation with something that isn't giving you any feedback. And like it was with you, Kalini, as soon as you looked into the camera, and it's like, oh, I know that I'm not talking to anyone. What am I saying? But like it just takes that warm up, and that's something that I'm a big believer in as well. I think that's a very, very key soft skill going into the new normal. People are going to have to learn to become camera confident.
Yes, and then but just the message again here is that you don't always have to have all the fancy equipment. You can do it actually with smaller equipment, but obviously for our purposes I wanted to have something really high quality. So you arrived with all your equipment. So for anybody wanting to get into this, the person sort of brings all the equipment. I knew what I wanted to say. And so the great thing about this sort of process, though, is that you've got the opportunity to say it as many times as you wish in different ways. And it is about becoming confident in front of the camera, being able to look in the viewfinder, and just being able to talk freely. And it's also all the skills that you would need if you were presenting just even a live, or just doing a quick video to go on Instagram or YouTube, or to go even on LinkedIn. You just need to know what's your purpose, be succinct about it, know what it is you have to say. And then again, I don't believe in scripting. That's the other thing, because the minute you script, it sounds very, 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 very plastic,
stilted, and artificial.
And I will say to anybody who does look at my show reel, there was no auto cue. It was all very natural. So all of it was just me knowing what I wanted to say, and I would just say it with enthusiasm, with passion. And then that allows you as well to have the intonation there, have the expression, put the natural pauses in, and use all your powers of expression to make it become something real, that is if you're talking to somebody. And it's just a wonderful process. So we did the videoing, didn't we?
Yeah.
Loads of takes. Took about 4 hours, I think. You were here with me, possibly even longer, which was
Included
great.
that sort of included the setup and kind of figuring out the best shot to get within, because we wanted to do it at your house, because I think your house is very indicative of your personality and your expression as well, and the way that you furnished your home is incredibly in line with your brand, as it were. So I wanted to make sure that we could get as much of that ethos in as possible, as much of that kind of the kind of the subtextual parts of your sort of personality in as much as possible. So yeah, that took a little bit of working out, and then lighting, sound, and it was an interesting process to sort of pull that all together.
And I think also, just again highlighting, you take a lot more care than, well, I have worked with people before doing this, but you took a lot of care. You even, you came first and you did scope out my house. I mean, you'd been for lunch, but the thing is, we looked at, were we going to turn it round and have it with the kitchen in the background, or me sitting on a sofa. We looked at different options with the piano in the background, whatever, so that we could actually work out what was the best setting. And then we did it. And what was lovely as well was that once we'd done that, normally, I think you say that sometimes you actually choose the footage afterwards, but in fact, in this case, because it was for us and because we'd taken so much, there was a specific role I was actually going for, and so that's why I did the show reel. What we then did was sent me all that, and it was fantastic because I was able to just go through and just put timestamp 9 minutes 23. I like this bit. Up to 9 minutes 27 or whatever, and it was great because we were able to choose the bits that were relevant. Once we'd done that, then handed it back to you. You chopped it all up, and then you sent me. In fact, you sent me 3 versions. The first version of the audio, so I then listened to it again, and then I thought, okay, I think we need to put this bit in this order, and then I think we need to bring in a little bit more of content from that hasn't been included and change it and swap things out. Did another take, number 2. And then you sent me that. And then there was another third one, which was 3. And then we were just about getting to it. Then we realized there wasn't enough about radio and my radio and journalistic background. So what we did was we went to Canal Side, and you were fantastic. You just came and you videoed me. And that's what's clever. I just want to explain to people, and Paul can explain better about this, is that you don't always have to be looking at the camera. What was lovely is that Paul had my voice, and we recorded some stuff here again at my home so that it sounded the same, and with the lapel mic. And we were able to, then he was overlaying my voice over the footage that we took at the radio station.
That's the magic of B-roll. The magic of B-roll, because that's another really good use case for B-roll. It not only illustrates the points that you're making in the A-roll, what you're talking about, but it's really good at disguising all the messy bits of camera work and stuff in the background that you don't want people to see necessarily. It's a bit of cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors, but it's a very, very good way to work, especially when you've got to kind of retrofit new content in while still keeping hold of the old stuff.
So that was what was also interesting, because in this case, like I would think, again, the difference between, say, when you did the one for Origi Bianchi, you were going around the store, so you were moving around. This one, the camera was sat still all the way through looking at me. But what was happening, we were fighting with sun. Like today, I started with a very, very sunny day, and then it's got a little bit overcast now. But, we were fighting constantly with the sun changing in, out, and that was a pain, wasn't it? So a lot of what you were actually masking, you wasn't masking, what was great as well was you said to me, and I was able to just go back through my last, X years, pulling out all the stuff I've done in public speaking or in theatre, the stuff I do with families and anti-bullying and work I do, as a mental health first aider. So it was great because I was able to pull all of those bits out, send you loads of stuff. And you were so clever in putting it all together. So what it is great, guys, is just to say to anybody who's thinking of this process, what's fantastic about it is you can show so much about yourself in 3 minutes odd, and people will get a better flavour for you than hundreds of posts, which,
The advantage of doing it in the way that I think for your showreel, Kalini, it was a slightly different format to how, for example, the Mac in Action videos were done with Nick. You knew exactly what you needed to say, and you were very good at delivering those points in a succinct and precise way, in a precise manner, because the nature of the showreel and what it was being used for, you needing to be precise was paramount. When it comes to another business, for example, if you were considering doing a video for your business or your brand, a really good way to approach it and a really easy way to approach it and natural way to do things is like the Mac in Action videos. We have a set of questions. Well, first of all, during a consultation, it would be, what do you want to tell about your business? What do you want to tell about yourself? And have you got a story that's interesting, this, that, the other? You create a series of questions that are designed to be leading questions, so that when we sit down and turn the cameras on, I ask you as the business owner, so I've heard that coronavirus has been quite badly affecting for your business. Do you want to explain a little bit about that? And then it's just a very, very natural way to lead into those open answers, where then the question is cut out completely from the finished video. And then we just have answers. And it almost seems like a stream of consciousness that comes straight from the heart, but completely naturally from whoever's talking. And it's a much easier way to access for people who are a little bit flighty, a little bit anxious in front of the camera. It's a really good way to access, the heart of the matter and what they really, really care about.
Yeah. So some people prefer a conversational style, and that's when I do these, that's what I try to encourage. It's more of a conversational style rather than it being an interview where we're just asking loads of questions. But for something where you're doing a promo video of something, or your company in particular, not just yourself, even if you're a one-man band and you are the company and you are the brand, it's really good for actually getting that brand and visual awareness, isn't it? And
of course.
Get to know you. So I think there is a place for this type of profiling in lots of different ways. Sam Newey, in fact, can I just share this comment? This is a lovely lady I know. Sam,
sure.
Thank you, Kalini and Paul. Great conversation. Sorry, have to dash. Great to hear your reference to Origi Bianchi. Love it, and have some beautiful furniture here too.
Thanks, Sam. This is all just one big plug for Origi Bianchi, this entire conversation.
We do love Nick, and we do love Origi Bianchi. And it does sound like we're really pushing this company, but we're not. We just have a lot of admiration.
And I do need a couple of bedside tables. So Nick, if you I'll drop a few more. If you want to, you want to facilitate, I'll stick them in the next video just in the background. No, just kidding. It's a bit cheeky, isn't it?
In fact, they're coming to fit my carpets tomorrow in the study. So that's why I'm in my dining room at the moment. So what I was just wanted to also talk a little bit about is in terms of a person wanting to see some examples of this work, where do they find that?
You can find the best samples of my work, I think, on my website at canvideography.com. That's got I would say my latest and greatest. It's just my greatest hits, essentially, just a selection of the ones that I'm really, really proud of. But as well, you can see the Mac in Action videos that we've been referencing. I set up the page some months ago on Facebook. I haven't had a chance to do as much as I want with the channel, particularly when it comes to videos. They do take a lot of time. And at the moment, because of the success of Mac in Action and because of the connections I found through Origi's and through yourself, Kalini, I've been very, very busy, been stuck behind tractors on the Cheshire roads. I've been all over the place. So I haven't had a lot of time to do a lot of Mac in Action videos recently. But if you want to go on the Mac in Action Facebook page, you can see the spotlight videos, which are my content that I've produced for local business owners. So that's just another sample of what the kind of work that I've done.
Yeah. And I mean, I just also think the reason why I asked you that question is because what we've discussed as well is that, say, for example, I've been doing a number of these in conversations with all the way during lockdown, and we're now into a second one, and I'm carrying on doing them, and I do a lot of lives. What I think is lovely is that after each one, you can chop it up, and that's something we've discussed, haven't we? That say if I did an in conversation with somebody, you can actually then take that content and you can actually find timestamps on that video on the conversation afterwards, which are really valuable content and just a snippet. And you can actually maybe find, like we went through the, sorry to name Rigis again, we went through the Rigis one, and we actually found that there were about 10 or 12 really good, just little snippets of about maybe a minute or 2 minutes or even 3, but just snippets that you can then feed into Insta. If you keep it under a minute, you can put it onto your LinkedIn, share it. And then it's just another opportunity to share some live video content. I mean, is that a difficult process, Paul?
It's not. I mean, the main difficulty comes in organizing the long form content as you start. I think anyone who's familiar with LinkedIn is familiar with all of the podcasts that have popped up over lockdown. There is a rhyme and a reason and a technique to why all of these podcasts have suddenly happened. It's because the people who've created those podcasts understand the power of video content, the power of that short form content. So they've made a long form platform to allow to make those short form things easier to find. It's very, very difficult to, it would be very difficult and almost pointless for me and you to jump on a webcam together to discuss something for 30 seconds and then stop. And it's completely unnatural as well. It just doesn't make any sense. So it's better to have long form conversations that you can then, after the fact, find these really naturalistic and these really good snippets of conversation that you can lift out, turn into 1 minute clips and post them back up. That process itself is relatively straightforward. Once you have a set format and once you have a set idea of, well, that I want to focus about this aspect of my business, or I want people to know about this part of my story and what I've been doing. And I think those short videos play really, really well on Instagram, as you mentioned, on LinkedIn, as you mentioned. Video content is very much favored by those social media platforms, and it's more likely to be shared. It's more likely to, stay towards the top of people's trendings tabs, get comments and likes and all the other good stuff. And it's a really, really strong testament to your brand and your identity. It's a really good window into exactly who you are as a person, to build that. The term these days is parasocial relationship. A relationship is being built on one side, so you don't know the audience, but the audience feels like they're starting to know you. And it's a really, really organic, natural, free way of networking. You're kind of parasocially networking with people. So yeah, it's a really, really positive thing to do and very, very worthwhile. So format that we've got here, the format that you've created, Kalini, is a fantastic means of getting that across and doing that.
Yeah, and I'm finding a lot of people, I've put it out there, a lot of people are asking to do it, but I don't like to do it to sort of less as a selling thing, though it might sound that we're selling Paul today. We're not. It's just basically, I just thought I think it's really important for people to take advantage of the ability to do this nowadays, because we do need to be much more visible. I'm very much about getting people to be able to communicate and speak publicly in a confident and effective manner with impact and passion, etc. Some people haven't got that skill set, and some people don't feel it's, even if they have the skill set, they don't feel confident to do it, and that's a different matter. So this is where I'm drawing the distinction that if you haven't got that confidence to do it and just go live and turn on the camera and do what we're doing, then get somebody to hold your hand, like doing it, for example, with me, or just getting them to do a video like Paul does. Because the great thing about that is when you do then share and chop that piece of material up, you've got several pieces that you can share, which are going to be top notch and high quality. And people will therefore, every time they see it, will think, wow, okay. So, there is. So I would say that, yeah, there's a great thing about being, natural and authentic and going live, but also there's something to be said for having that little edge where it's a bit more professional and a little bit more, what message are you, again, I always go back to what is it, how do you wish to be perceived? When I talk about, public speaking, it's about what, first of all, why are you doing it? What do you say? How do you say it? Who are you saying it to? Your audience is very important. So if your audience wants to see a certain persona or a certain image or a certain personality, you can create that through this video. And it's an amazing platform, which you can't do in the written word as well.
I think a lot of people these days, well, less so now, but it's been a been a general understanding that video production is a big event. It's a big, all-encompassing, spend an entire week on business, workshopping, storyboarding ideas. A huge team of people comes in. You've got lighting technicians, people with tripods, massive cameras. If you want a promo video making, it's a massive deal, and with a massive cost at the end of it. And for those small to medium businesses, that's never really been an approachable or viable solution. But for small to medium businesses, they're the people that need it most, because they're the ones that are looking for the most growth. But there's no excuse anymore for why that should be gatekept to the larger businesses with the disposable income that wants a flash new promo video making. Sure, there's room for a flash promo that costs £10,000, £15,000, that does all the bells and whistles and gets 1 million hits on YouTube because it's a viral sensation, because there's a dog in it that talks, just shouting out to all of the adverts that I've seen on TV in the last 5 or 10 years. But there's room, there's so much space because of the technological advances that we're making and multifaceted skill sets such as the one that I put forward. There's no reason why any small to medium business can't have access to high quality, professional, affordable video productions, because at the end of the day, I turn up with a single bag and I ask them a few questions, turn the cameras on, turn the cameras off, move around weirdly, getting some shots of them making coffees or painting pictures, or in your case, speaking into microphones that aren't actually turned on. And then I'd go away, and within 2.5 days, I've got a video that does exactly what it needs to do. It puts across a professional persona and that fancy shop window that customers and potential connections can look through and say, do you know what, I want to go with them because I feel like I can see what their business is. I can see that they've done a well-produced video and I trust them. It's that trust building aspect that videos are so good at doing.
And I think also we're all wired for storytelling, aren't we? And so I think the other great thing about video is you are telling a story of that person. Without sort of, in words, obviously, and pictures, but we tell, when we talk about the power of communication, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. And, a lot about it's your body language, it's your facial expressions, your smile, your energy, your passion that comes across. And so we're telling stories with ourselves, with our bodies and with our faces and voices. And that's what video does, which you can't get from the written word. So as I said, that's why I've been loving doing these lives and doing these in conversations with people, because you're getting to the essence of that person and you're showcasing them in the most true, authentic. I'm very much about authenticity and integrity and, building trust. So it's about people getting to know that person in a very authentic manner. And it's a really powerful way of doing that. So if we haven't convinced you yet that this is a way to you really promote yourself, guys, so it wasn't really about trying to ram that down. I just wanted to share with you all, because I've had an amazing experience with Paul. And I'm very pleased that we've met. We're going to carry on doing some work together in different ways. And also, as I said, I think what we wanted to also do is dispel this thing that you have to have the fancy, whistles and bells and flutes, whatever, to make it amazingly good. You can do it with a simple one person. It is really possible. I want to just ask you before we finish is, by the way, thank you. Anybody who's got any questions, please do put them in the chat. But I just wanted to ask you, so where do we go from here for you, Paul? What's your future look like?
The immediate future looks incredibly busy, Kalini. So once I've ran myself into the ground and sleep for about a week around Christmas time, going into next year, I'm looking to expand the business in ways of expanding my scope and the type of content that I focus on. I've got a very close-knit list of clients, of reliable clients that I work with that have become essentially friends through a working relationship, that I've been doing continuous content for social media, for one-off gigs, this, that, the other. And next year I'm looking to, I've already been from our connections and from with Mac in Action, I've slowly been sort of building out and out and out. There seems to be a lot more promotional videos for businesses in the local area, sort of, or wider than the local area, so Stockport, Manchester, that kind of scope. It's getting bigger and bigger, and I'm doing more and more varied stuff. I've got no particular goal because I'm a creative when it comes to it, so I'm not financially driven by this. I'm driven purely out of creativity, out of wanting to create quality content for businesses that deserve it and deserve to have their stories told. That's where I'm angling it. So if somebody gets in touch with me and explains the business, I'm more than likely to say, yeah, that sounds interesting. Or if it is a bit more run of the mill, if it's if it's an accounting firm that's essentially sitting behind desks and, clicking on things and entering values, for me, it's a challenge. It's how can I make that exciting? Yeah. So any business that would be interested in getting video content made for social media or a one-off promo video, I'm open to work with anyone. So that's it. Next year is just more variation, bigger, better. And also I'm going to be converting the garage in my back garden into a studio. I've never done DIY before, so it's going to be interesting. So I'm cutting my teeth on that personally, and professionally, we're just going to see where it goes.
So the idea that you can then have people who haven't got maybe the space or the setup, that they can come to you and you can do the video there?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially, I'm going to set up a green screen and get half of the room dedicated to green screening and just a elastic or dynamic setup that I can move things around and make things available for those content creators and people who maybe aren't comfortable filming in their own environment or their office or something like that. They can come on site and we can conduct interviews and spoken and talking head interviews, A-roll stuff in person. But as well, it's a place for me to, because I've worked from home for the last 3.5 years, and it's a place now for me, now that I can afford to have this space away from the house. It's a place for me, mentally speaking, psychologically, to shift myself into a workspace. And I feel like I'd be even more productive when I'm in that area. And like, this is my locked off zone for this type of work. I'm very much into, I think a lot of people over lockdown have focused very much on well-being and focusing on the same four walls and the space that they're in and how to maximize their well-being in that space. So for me, that's been a big realization for me that I need more of a barrier, more of a separation between my home life and my work life. At the moment, it's just a bedroom that's been converted into an office. So I want to separate it a little bit more between the personal and professional. So he says, having a conversation about business in his living room.
No, but I think that is quite important, isn't it? To have your space. And I think that's been one of the challenges of COVID and lockdown, because we've all been, especially when the schools were shut. It was, children being at home all the time, and so parents losing their space where they may have worked from, but also juggling the homeschooling and living space and study space. So I think it's important for us all to actually sort of look at that. But that's a totally different conversation about well-being. But it's important that you actually are thinking about the well-being. And is there any scope? Obviously, there comes a point where you're obviously just you. Are you likely to expand and take anybody on, or an apprentice, or somebody who wants to learn the tools of the trade?
Never say never, because there may be opportunities. I don't want to throw any names out there, but there may be opportunities coming up where I will be working in close contact with, well, not too close because social distancing, but close contact with young people who have that sort of areas of skill set and those media interests. And I may be able to work with them in a semi-professional setting. And from there, it may just transpire that it's great for me to take on an apprentice. It's great for me to take on sort of, more staff, essentially, especially if I'm diversifying in what I'm doing and taking more clients on. It's going to come to a point of necessity that I'll need a second shooter, I'll need a camera operator, I'll need an editor. But at the end of the day, it's very much like my my scope is very, very wide, and I'm not particularly shooting in any one direction. I can, at the moment, I make the joke saying that I can barely organize myself, but it's let alone another person. But yeah, never say never. It could very much transpire that it sort of expands going into next year. So we'll see.
I think it will be, you know, I can see it sort of working for you as well. And I you know, there's all sorts, like, you know, being able to have somebody to do the editing and the time consuming stuff so that you can put your skills where it matters. And also, you know, do you ever do training courses? Because I've got a youth group, and I actually am thinking to myself here, because we do theatrical productions, and the kids, I like to try and train them up so that they learn the production side of it. Or, you know, I know loads about lighting and sound and all the equipment and you know, and about producing a show. It will be interesting, I'm sure, for them to, there'll be some of them who want to, there must be a lot of young people out there who would love to learn the skills.
No, I do like the idea of that. There's another part of me though that's thinking, well, I've come up with the whole genesis of you know, cameras, like SLR cameras, like the one that I'm using now, digital SLR cameras with the lenses and things like that, with them becoming really, really viable for video production. But there's a younger generation than me who's sort of grown into that from childhood into teenage years organically. So there's a fear in my head that I'll start teaching one of these workshops, and then I'll think, oh, these people know more than I do. I mean, there's not much more to learn, but yeah, it's certainly something that I'd like to do, because I feel like I'm passionate enough about it, and I feel like I can get the points across well enough. I think teaching is something that I'd quite like to give it at least a go. So that's maybe something that we can talk about. I'd be interested in doing that.
Because I have to say that the one thing I have also learnt about you is that you're incredibly eloquent. You're incredible. People underestimate that, and I think that's something I have learned, because even when it was me putting bits together, you're very good at actually the spoken word and the written word, and I actually think you explain things very, very well and very effectively. So there is a skill to, you know, classroom management and working with young people, but I do actually think there would be, particularly now with the high unemployment rates and, you know, lots of young people coming out of school, you know, not in education or employment or training needs. I think there is scope there to give them that hope that they can learn a skill, and it's certainly a skill that's going to be there. And actually, you've mentioned about cameras, but so many young people only know about cameras, which they're mobile phones. So actually the learning about SLRs and digital cameras and videography would actually be probably pretty good for them. So
when it comes to, and that yeah, that's a good point. When it comes to the aspect of, because it's in my mind as well, just the unemployment, the recession, the state of the world at the moment, with people having to reskill and look for other work elsewhere, there's much more of an appetite and much more of a necessity to become self-sufficient, I think. If you have a skill, if you have a trade, if you have a passion that you can commoditize, you need to learn the ins and outs of it, be it through video production, be it through artwork, be it through design, be it through anything. It would be really, really beneficial to learn how to maximize those opportunities and how to become self-sufficient in our new normal world. I've got an idea for a YouTube series on how to do that. It is always going to be leaning towards video production, because that's my speciality. It's what I do. But for somebody who's been freelance for 3.5 years, going on 4 next year, so time flies. But it's something that I really want to look into, and I really want to kind of take hold of and have as a resource for people if they're in a time where they think, well, I think I might need to make a go of things myself in doing my own thing, is sort of explaining from start to finish what you do need to worry about setting up your own business, what's generally going to be all right, and just the psychological, the professional aspects of it, because it's a huge undertaking, but it's something that going into 2021, it's going to be at the forefront of a lot of people's minds.
And definitely, you know, just to close it, I mean, I think YouTube as well is the platform to aim for as well, because I think it's the second largest platform now, and people are all looking to, you know, they'll go to YouTube to learn about something.
Second largest search engine in the world.
I think, yeah, I think you would be, your content would be really well received. So Paul, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I think it's been a lovely chance to good opportunity. We've got to know each other really well, which has been great. But I think it's been a great opportunity to share the benefits of what you do. And I know it's certainly benefited me immensely, and I'm sure it could benefit a lot of other people. But I hope, is there any lasting thing you want to say before you go?
Just to say that thank you for everyone so far who's been supporting me. And if you are considering investing in a professional, affordable video, you know where to find me through LinkedIn or through Facebook, or you can find my contact details on my website. And finally, just a note to those who are struggling through lockdown 2, COVID boogaloo. It's just make sure that you maximize your space indoors to feel more like a shelter than a prison. Go out into the colds, go out for walks, just get that blood pumping, get fresh air around your head, and then you'll see your house as a shelter rather than seeing it as somewhere that you need to stay. So that's done a world of good for my mental health, and for anyone who's struggling through lockdown 2.0, that's a really, really key thing to take away. And you know, if you ever need to distract yourself, then there's always Netflix.
Thank you, Paul. It's been so lovely talking to you.
No, it's been great, Kalini.
We'll be sharing this conversation and putting it on my YouTube channel, and there'll be links for Paul in the chat afterwards. Thank you very much, those of you who've been listening and who will be in the future listening, because it's going to be shared far and wide, this conversation. Thank you very much, everybody, and really pleased to have you here, Paul. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye. Cheers, everyone. Bye.